this thing in Davos. They're doing it next week. All these elites come in, the World Economic Forum, and basically, their vision is they run everything and everybody else is just like a serf, like a peasant. And it's really weakening Western society, Western values, but underlying a lot of that is the CCP. Those people are there, they're elites, but Xi is really kind of the puppet behind the curtain on a lot of this stuff. So, and what I've said in Florida is that type of stuff coming out of Davos, those policies are dead on arrival in the state of Florida.
War Room, Gwinnett County, the people's voice, keeping you informed. War Room, Gwinnett County, the people's voice. You got to turn my mic on. Thank you for tuning in to War Room, Gwinnett County. I am your host, Antonio Jones. That's the way I think the governor should sound. All right, so we got to talk about something today, guys. We are, I guess, almost 24 hours past Brian Kemp's gubernatorial inaugural ball. So I made a few posts yesterday on my page, and there was some questions, and I almost came up underneath a firestorm. People to me have act like they're a little Kemp crazy, but that's just my 2 cents. I think that we all should reserve the right to ask questions to people in charge, and that's just my 2 cents. And I get it. You want to be invited to the party and, put on your nice evening dress and your new suit and, with your haircut and all of that. But we got to keep ourselves focused on the task at hand. And there's a lot going on in the world, definitely a lot going on in Georgia. So we should be asking questions to our leadership and, and asking them, why they're doing some of the things that they do. So I know everybody's probably got wind of it now. So Brian Kemp has been invited to Davos. That's, for those that don't know, that's where the World Economic Forum meets. And I guess they go through their business, and they've been pretty outspoken about what their agenda is. They want everybody to drive electric cars, presidential election that we had. And people had a lot of concerns about irregularities that they saw during that election. The reason why I'm talking about this, guys, is if you don't know by now that everything is linked in together. When I say everything, I mean from your local district attorney to, your school board, now your governors and, in the White House. All of this stuff is linked in somewhere, and they all converge on a point somewhere. So let's go back to 2020 and let's talk about some of the things that went on from then, which are just points on the board. You connect your own dots, and you get to come up with your own final conclusion of what you think after we put all of these points and these dots out on the board. I think there's, probably some backroom business, maybe potentially going on with the governor. That's what some of the rumblings that we've heard up until this point. But here's a cool thing: you get to take your own assessment, look at the facts. Anything that I got wrong, you get to correct me on that, and come make your own assessment on what's going on here. But I voted for Kemp. I thought he was the best choice that we had that was on the table between the two. But just because I voted for him doesn't mean that I stopped and I don't have any questions now. And let myself go Kemp crazy and stop asking questions and looking at people who might have questions about what he's doing or what he's done. All right, so let's go back to 3 November 2020. So there were a lot of irregularities, obviously. I mean, the legislature, they came together and put together a couple of bills. but I don't want to get too far ahead. So there was some irregularities during the 2020. Then allegedly a pipe burst in Atlanta. The counting stopped. Then there were ballot dumps. There were Ruby Freeman and her daughter allegedly on camera rescanning ballots over and over again. I didn't see the GBI do a real thorough investigation. Not like the FBI do. Like they went and kicked in at Mar-a-Lago. I don't think our FBI looked far into that to investigate. We had violations of chain of custody going on. We had huge ballot dumps coming out of nowhere, and a lot of statisticians were saying that was virtually impossible. So it's like, why am I talking about this now? Because the governor, in my opinion, when it came time to draft new legislation and sign some meaningful legislation, he either didn't support it. We know it didn't get signed, and that particular bill was SB 89. So what SB 89 would have done was it would have unsealed the ballots, it would have shored up the chain of custody, and I believe it would have called for enhanced signature verification. Meaning that if you had a mail-in ballot and you sent it in, that it could be verified that that signature matched. So it's like, who wouldn't want transparency? And the other question would be, why? Why didn't you want SB 89? But instead, that bill was killed by Jeffrey Duncan, and that's no secret. I got a letter here I had Garland Favorito, shout out to Voter GA. He came on last week and talked about how, Jeffrey Duncan killed the bill, SB 89, in the last minute. And it was his belief that he got pre-approval to do so from guess who? Brian Kemp. There's a letter on Voter GA that was put out April 5th of last year. And I'll read the last sentence off of here, a couple sentences so you guys can hear. And I quote, "It's obvious that Governor Brian Kemp pre-approved, I guess it's signed die, I don't know how you pronounce that, which is basically authorized him to kill the bill, which are actions, his actions was given the friendship that was between Jeff and Brian Kemp. We explained it to his staff, and he would get much credit for the election integrity improvements with the passage of SB 89. But now he will bear the brunt of complaints for you blocking a bill that Republicans unanimously wanted for their constituents." And sometimes, you got to look at this thing like a chess game. So they'll have they could have did a backroom deal with each other and said, hey, we're going to get you, everybody's going to vote for this. And then at the end of all this, we're going to get the bill killed. These are kind of games that are played. It was a scenario out in, I don't know if it was Arizona, but what was happening was the governor was having, I guess, more Democrats on committees or something. And that way bills could get killed before it even came out. And the Republican governor would say, well, the bill didn't make it out of the committee, so, it can't make it onto the floor. These are the kind of games that are played. So that's why I say shout out to the 20 up in Congress who got the rules changed and everything. We need more of that. We need robust debate. We can't become a part of a group think in our own party. And it's like if you put out something about Brian Kemp or whatever, then people lightweight feel some kind of way about you. But I don't care. It don't matter to me. I ain't never not had my own mind. I like I said, I voted for him, but let me get back on track. So SB 89 was killed. And that was a better bill for election integrity. So they came back with this, easy to vote, harder to cheat. That was the gimmick to go along. But what was in the bill that it was codified that you would use these voting machines that people had a lot of concerns about, that they don't want to have audited or whatever. And the next question is why? Why not? Why are we codifying machines in Georgia, or why did they codify the bill for SB 202 and put the easy to vote, harder to cheat on it when these machines are going to be used until 2030? So the World Economic Forum said by 2030 you'll own nothing and be happy. The way that you take over a country, a city, and counties and take people's rights away is nullify their ability to get people in there to do the things that they need to do to remain a free society. So why these machines get codified in SB 202 again? That's another question we should be asking the governor. Why? Easier, harder to, whatever. But anyway, we should be asking those questions. So anyway, they signed that bill into law. And I believe that was in March of 2021. So we all know Trump's out. They didn't let him get back in. I think that the contest was illegitimate or whatever, but they didn't let him get back in. And it's like, why? Why would people be so anti? Because Trump was going to unleash American energy. That means fossil fuels, right? All right, let's fast forward. So in December 2021, guess what happened? We are so proud that Georgia will now be the home to Rivian's largest manufacturing facility, said Governor Kemp. This single investment, the largest in state history, represents the future of automotive manufacturing and establishes the leading role the Peach State will play in this booming industry for generations to come. For those that don't know, Rivian is an electric vehicle plant. In addition to Georgia's long-term focus on logistics, talent, workforce, and responsive government that significantly contributed to today's pivotal announcement, my administration's more recent emphasis on innovation and development in the electric mobility ecosystem has equipped our state with a new tool in the toolbox to deliver big wins for hardworking Georgians. So, coincidence? Don't want to look into the election. We codify these machines. Didn't really look into the 2020 contest so that a pro-fossil fuel president doesn't make it in. And 1 year later, you're making this announcement. Coincidence? You get to make that choice. I gave you my 2 cents in it. All right, so let's talk about something else. Who is the largest electric vehicle battery maker? Let's take a look. Number 1, China, 32.5%. Number 4, China, 6.9% of the global market. Number 7, China, 2.7% of the global market of electric vehicle batteries. Number 9, China, 2.0%. That is knocking on, if not over 50% of the electric vehicle battery market. Coincidence? So, in January of this year, Miss Ruby and Miss Shea was given one of the largest. Well, no, let me read this because I'm messing this all up. So President Joe Biden on Friday will present the nation's second highest civilian award to 12 individuals involved in defending the Capitol during the insurrection on January 6, 2021, and safeguarding the will of American voters in the 2020 presidential election. Let me skip. Biden is also recognizing Michigan's Secretary of State, Jocelyn Benson, Rusty Bowers, a former Arizona House Speaker who resisted pressure to overturn the election results. They weren't trying to overturn the results. They wanted transparency to look in and audit this stuff properly and for a judge to take a look at it. Also, Ruby Freeman and her daughter, Shay Moss, election workers in Fulton County, Georgia, who were subjected to threats and harassment after ensuring votes in the county were properly tabulated. Folks, I think that, this is my little input on this now. This is a question I have for the people that may be watching this right now. Has China come more like us, or has our government, from what you see now today, become more like China? Do you actually believe in your mind, with all your logic, that Brian Kemp can go over to Davos, make some speech and influence people with trillions of dollars? He's already, he's already bent the knee to the whole idea, this electric vehicle stuff. This is going to cripple the Americans. That's what this is designed to do. You don't go. I view the World Economic Forum as like a snake pit, and in order to survive in one, you either have to kill all the snakes that's in the pit, or either you become one, and that's just the bottom line. I was up under a lot of heat for some stuff I said on my page, but I stand by what I said. Make him come forward to the people of Georgia and answer these questions. Why are you getting invited to Davos and Ron DeSantis ain't? Tell me the same people on my page touting Ron DeSantis. I think Ron DeSantis is a great governor and make a great president someday. But why was he not invited to Davos and Brian Kemp was? My opinion is DeSantis has already said anything that come out of the World Economic Forum is dead on arrival. Brian Kemp already implementing what they want done. You think he gonna stop right there? Like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what you think down in the comments.
War Room, Gwinnett County, the people's voice, keeping you informed. War Room, the people's voice.